Hi, and welcome to the Dingers Podcast, episode 63. This is your host, Mitch. I'm here with my boys, Jeff and Kevin. How are you guys tonight?
Not bad. Finally got really cold and windy, which sucked, but hanging in there for a Monday.
Yeah, what'd we do? We got out of the car when we got to school this morning, Mitch, and immediately both like, oh my gosh, and like covered up and just tried to run into the building. It was cold out there.
Typical Midwest weather that changes on a dime.
Right.
I just got done watching the Iowa-Illinois basketball game, and Iowa took the L, sad, but we have to hear it from Cody on tap probably tomorrow on Twitter. Him giving it to us pretty good. He's a big Illinois fan, but Keegan Murray couldn't carry us through in the end. Did you guys watch the game?
No. If you haven't, you've probably forgotten that I'm the biggest Iowa Hawkeye basketball jinx there is.
Oh yeah, you can't watch games. Yeah. They lose.
I started to watch their game in the ACC Challenge. They were up by 12. By the time I turned the channel, they were up by 2. And I never looked back.
Yeah. So you definitely watched the Michigan-Iowa football game on Saturday, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Yep. I was hoping for a little better outcome. I'm like getting kicked in the pills on every facet of the game. But if you look at it, I mean, our defense gave up a couple of trick plays and one long sustained drive in the first half. The thing that hurt us is the point differential we got into and had to go for it on fourth down.
Yeah.
Couldn't convert a lot of what were like 1 for 9 on third down.
Yeah,
the offense was terrible.
Yeah.
It was ugly.
So here's my best Bill Belichick. We're on to Kentucky.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this podcast is presented to you by Shy City Sports. If you're interested in all things Chicago sports, this is your place. Go check out all the great forums, the podcasts, the Keep It 100 Bears podcast, the Good Guys Talk Back White Sox podcast, and the Big Red Bus, the Bulls podcast. This podcast is also sponsored by Toppling Goliath Beer. So if you have Toppling Goliath Beer, we'll crack our beer. You can get Toppling Goliath in Chicago now at Benny's.
Yeah.
So go get yourself some Toppling Goliath beer. They got this holiday beer that was up in Decorah that actually tastes pretty good. I'm not a huge cinnamon.
Which one was that?
Holodots? Yeah.
Yeah, I finally made a road trip up to the brewery Mecca up there in Decorah. It is beautiful up there, and loved everything I taste.
Beer tastes like peppermint sticks or something.
It's weird, but it works.
Yeah, it works.
That's like they just announced a new stout, cinnamon roll pastry stout.
Yep.
And normally that would be like weird, but I had a really good donut beer while I was up there too, and I'm like, they can probably make it work. I have a feeling it works for some reason.
They're really trying to get the diet into liquid form.
Right. Oh, and that beer is. Oh gosh, I can't remember if it's lactose free or something. Like, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a special podcast tonight because we have an interview with Elise Meniker from Marquee Sports Network. So welcome to the show, Elise.
Hey guys, good to be on.
Yeah, welcome to the Dingers Podcast.
In there, kind of slid in.
Yep.
It's great to have you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so first, just start out telling us, how did you kind of get your start in broadcasting? I know if you watch the Chicago Cubs, we see your face, and it's great to have you on, but how did you kind of get your start within broadcasting?
Yeah, so I actually started in local TV as a news reporter. So I started in Columbia, Missouri. That was my first job. Right after college, 2 days after I graduated, I went to Sweden where I played professional softball. And then when I got back a few months later, that's when I kind of dove into television. So I always wanted to work in sports. I just couldn't land the sports job. So my first 2 jobs were actually in news. So Columbia, Missouri. And then I went back to grad school at Northwestern. That's where I got my master's degree in broadcast journalism. Then after that, a few months later, after I graduated, went to Decatur, Illinois, also news reporter there. But I started getting anchor experience there. I became the morning anchor after a year. And then it was there that I was able to kind of dive into sports by shooting football highlights, filling in for the sports anchors, just anything that I could do sports related. I had my own sports segment there. So that's how I was able to get a sports job in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So there I covered the Packers, Bucks, Brewers. And then it was from having that full-time sports job, but I was able to make the jump to Big Ten Network. And obviously then from Big Ten Network, which I still do, but also now Marquee Sports Network. So that's kind of like the very Cliff Notes version of how I got to where I am.
Yeah. So you grew up in Chicago, correct?
Yes, just north of Chicago. I went to New Trier High School. So people have heard of it. Grew up in Wilmette, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
So did you grow up as a Northwestern Wildcat fan?
So at some point, like everyone in my family has gone to Northwestern, my mom, brother, and sister. So yeah, if that were like the team that I was kind of watching the most of growing up, but I wasn't a huge college sports fan growing up. We were just a baseball family growing up. That's kind of how I would describe it. So my dad played minor league baseball, and he's the one who kind of started us on that track. Because then my brother played baseball at Illinois State. My sister played sports for a little bit, but she actually got into radio in high school, and that's still what she does today. So she's not as into sports, more actually entertainment, like celebrity kind of gossip stuff. But my brother and I are kind of like the people who held on to baseball.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was watching a video of you actually today on YouTube of you like showing pictures of yourself and your family at Cubs games when you were really, really little.
Yeah.
And so that's cool that you grew up going to Wrigley Field.
Exactly.
I love seeing like you as a female in sports broadcasting. I know my daughter loves watching you. Like she knows like you and Taylor. She like loves when you guys pop on. And she wanted to ask you a question.
Okay.
But it's her bedtime. And so
it's too late.
So I had to record a question for you. And so here is her question for you.
Hi, Elise. My name is Wrigley Nims. I like watching you on Marquee Sports Network when I watch the Cubs play. I have a question for you. What was your favorite baseball player when you were a kid, and what was your favorite baseball player currently now? My favorite baseball player is Anthony Rizzo, and I'm so sad to see him go. Bye.
That was amazing. Also, Wrigley.
Yep.
But I like the spelling.
Yeah.
I love that. Great question. She's adorable. So favorite player growing up. I think you have to go. I always say Kerry Wood because I remember watching him, and I even created like a sign for him growing up when they were in the playoffs. Derek Lee. I mean, that right? I feel like it's when you say something, you're always like, yes, but like sometimes not the first name, but yes, Derek Lee, got to get that in there. And then, so now currently my answer, it's based off of last season because it's tough now because I'm like now the broadcast side of it, right? So that fan in me is still there, but I walk that fine line. So I don't really see the game the same anymore. But can I go with like Frank Schwindel? I mean,
Yeah.
Last season. Like that was amazing. He was the most fun player to watch in the league. So I would say if we're just going off of like current right now, like he's the first name that comes into my head when I'm like, yeah, he was fun to watch.
Yeah.
But Wrigley had a good answer too. Obviously, can't go wrong with Rizzo, right?
Yeah, she was pretty heartbroken at the trade deadline. That day was tough because like having to pull like her and my son, who we took to their very first games at opening day 2.0 this year, was their first game.
Games ever.
And so breaking that to him on trade deadline was tough.
Yeah, wasn't that crazy? The atmosphere at that game.
Yeah, yeah. Right? Oh, it was the 14 pitch at bat. Like, yeah, it was just all the hairs on your arms just stand up. It was just electric. It was awesome.
Totally.
So who do you think is someone that you looked up to in your field or as an inspiration to pursue like sports reporting or broadcasting as you moved up?
So one of my good friends and mentors is Lisa Byington. I didn't meet her obviously until I started working at Big Ten Network, but actually, when I worked in Milwaukee, because we would cover Wisconsin, I would see her on TV, and then to meet her. She's one of the nicest, most helpful, genuine people you will ever meet. And obviously she's very talented and good at what she does. So she's been a huge influence of mine, and she's helped me a lot ever since we've met. So I didn't know I wanted to get into broadcast until really going into my senior year of college. So when I watched sports, it was never really, I want to do this and I'm going to watch someone. Obviously growing up, when it came to watching sports reporters, Aaron Andrews is probably, obviously to this day, one of the most popular and prevalent faces out there. But then as I move forward in my career, so I would say Lisa Byington, and actually Jessie Garcia, she now just became the news director at CBS in Milwaukee. But I replaced her in Milwaukee. That's how I got that job, because she stepped away from broadcast for a little bit. And she was the first female sports broadcaster in the state of Wisconsin. And so she kind of trained me and mentored me when I got to Milwaukee. And I did my first assignment with her at Lambeau. So she may not be a name that most people are familiar with, but she is one of my favorite people. And I look up to her so much as well, not just as a broadcaster, but she's a mom, and the way she handles the personal side as well. That's even why she stepped away for a little bit, just to go do other projects. So those two women in particular always stick out to me because of what they've done, they've accomplished, and just the good people they are.
So we've gotten to know Alex pretty well over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Doing the podcast and going down to Principal Park to watch the games. Tell us your experience about being as a broadcast partner when they put the games on the Marquee network.
Working with Alex was awesome. I mean, he's great and couldn't have asked for a better partner in Iowa. Right away when I got the assignment, called him, and I had never spoken to him or anything like that. And immediately we just had a great connection because he was there to help. I mean, he was a huge help in the beginning. Any questions I had, anything I needed. And that was true throughout my whole time doing the games. He was always willing to be hey, if you need this, that, whatever. Since I was going back and forth, he was always willing to kind of keep me updated. And of course, I actually would, watch or listen to the games, just on my laptop at home and stuff. But yeah, he's awesome. He's the fact how comfortable he made me right away, right? That's part of the chemistry that you have to have with your broadcast partner. So the fact that he was willing to help and just really supported me from day one. And I felt that, I think, and I was, trying to do the same with him. And I think he felt that as well. That I think that's why we work so well together, is because we wanted to be good together, and we wanted to give Marquee the best product we could covering the Iowa Cubs, because we both have such passion for the sport.
Right. You could tell both of you guys are huge baseball fans and have that background. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Glad that came across.
That's one thing I noticed, is just your guys' chemistry. It felt like you guys had known each other for a very long time.
Thank you.
It just felt natural. Now, how many times have you actually done play-by-play and color commentary prior to getting that gig and being able to do that with Alex?
So I had done softball games prior. Iowa Cubs they were my first baseball games. So my first Iowa Cubs game, that was my first baseball game. It felt different, and I was kind of preparing for that just because of the nature of the game and how it differs from softball. The biggest thing that I was just kind of anticipating was the pace. But then you kind of get into the number of pitchers that are used, because in a softball game, you may have two pitchers, but you're probably looking at one the whole game. So you don't really have pitching changes. You're not trying to buy time or look at the bullpen or anything like that. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing right off the bat. Did I notice that? Yeah, I think the length of the first game, I remember thinking okay, yeah, you gotta keep the energy up, right? The whole time. Softball games are maybe going a couple hours. And so then for baseball, so that would be, I think, just the biggest difference right off the bat that I anticipated and that I would say is true. But I think overall it was nice to have the softball experience, and I attribute the fact that I could kind of move to baseball. I would like to believe pretty seamlessly, because they're so similar. And even today, they become more similar with the technology, because softball uses all the same technology as baseball now. So it's kind of fun. And I hope like the more I do it to even show just how similar the sports are, because I still, love softball, obviously, and want to do anything I can to promote that sport too.
Well, talking about softball, so we did a little bit of looking into your softball career stats, and so pretty impressive. You're the
Thank you.
It's a nice resume.
3-time first team All Ivy League.
Yeah.
You had 53 doubles. You ranked top 5 all time in dingers with 37, a slugging percentage of .643.
Okay.
You were second in RBIs with 188. You're third overall.
One shy of time. Yeah. That kills me.
Come on, one more at bat.
No.
Third in runs scored, 156, and an batting average of 363.
Well, there was my sophomore season that I hit 399, and my dad will always remind me of that. Not 400.
1 point off. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
really?
It's not bad. I mean, could have done a little better.
If we ever need a clutch hit, I mean, Rossi knows where he can find it.
You know what though? Those were the moments I lived for those moments. I loved hitting in those situations. So it was really important to me not just to have those at bats, but to come through. That's what I took the most pride in, was being able to be there for my teammates. Because when you're hitting in that 3 hole, I think my freshman year I was in maybe the 4 or 5 hole. That's right. You're there to do that. So it was really important to me to always do my job. So I'm thankful my stats reflect that. But it's a huge tribute to your teammates, right? Because none of that stuff can happen if they aren't doing their job too. And I think it was the chemistry of the team. I had so much fun. I would do college over again. And if you asked me, I would say yes, no hesitation. I'm going back. I wouldn't change a thing.
How many times did you look down at third baseline at the coach and he was giving you the slap bunt signal and you're like, I didn't see that.
Oh, he would make me bunt. And that's when I would have to tell myself, do your job.
Yeah,
right.
You're going to be really mad if you don't lay down the bunt. But if I missed the bunt or fouled it off, I'd be like, okay, now I can.
I did what you said. Now we're doing something else.
Yeah. I know my college stats definitely didn't reflect that. Didn't have. So yeah, I was very impressed with your stats.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had more than anything, it was fun. Numbers, all of that. I wouldn't take any of it back. My teammates are the best. Also, my best friends today, as you guys know, anytime you're playing sports or around that stuff, that's the best part.
Now, you're a longtime Cubs fan. What's it like showing up to Wrigley Field every day as your job?
Yeah, sometimes this was probably the most I've ever done it, where I took a step back on more days than not, and kind of reminded myself of that, walking into work. But it's funny how the field kind of transforms into the workplace, because I did an event where I had to go through basically the main entrance of Wrigley, right? The front. And I hadn't been through that entrance because the media has a separate entrance. And so it was weird how different it was, and almost how that now has become not foreign, but it's different. It's separate. I can't explain it. And I was like, wow, I hadn't even been over really to that side of the field in that way in a long time. So it's funny how when I was talking about those lines kind of blurring, where you're that fan, but I'm also now, covering the team, how quickly that stuff can kind of evolve. But that's one of the reasons why I always wanted to appreciate that. And that's kind of was my reminder. And in some ways, that's kind of actually what calms me down at the start of a work day, when I kind of take a step back and appreciate all of that, because it kind of reminds you this is awesome. This is where I'm coming into work. There's not a better place out there to be doing it. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I did try to appreciate it more, because I feel in this job, you just kind of go through it and you can take that for granted.
Yeah, I did a Spartan race at Wrigley Field, right before the pandemic hit, in October before it hit. And I did more walking and just you're all over, and you get towards the end, you're running along the ivy and the warning track, and I'm stopping, touching the ivy, and everybody's run. It's no, I am enjoying this.
I'm here for the
I'm
experience. I
making
don't
this
care
all
about my
in.
time.
Like, don't tell me to hurry and run off this field. I've dreamed of playing on this field my whole life. You're not going to rush me.
Yeah, I did demo segments, and that was when because you have to get, like, you immediately think you have to get your work done. So that's always like where my focus is. But sometimes for a split second, I just would be like, this is cool. Because like I do want to like enjoy it too, because I feel like that's the fun part. I would hate it if I look back and never really appreciate it. So I'm trying to actually be better about that, because I think so often when you go into these stadiums and you just go about it like, you know, at times, even as I go into Big Ten stadiums, you can take it for granted because you go back to them, you've been at them. So I'm trying not to do that, especially when I go to Wrigley.
So Big Ten stadiums, what's been your favorite one so far?
Favorite, I always say that when it comes to like crowd, right, and like energy and environment, my first game ever was at Nebraska. So that's a loud, cool stadium, always a sellout.
Wrong answer.
Penn State, you want me to say Iowa? I know.
We're only a little biased.
Yeah, I got to be honest though. Those are the two that people ask. They're the loudest, the coolest environments. They're, you know, some of the biggest too, like the crowds that you're going to get. So,
Yeah.
and I will, of course, people are going to say it's like intimate, always a good
It's
fan
close.
base. The wave is what I got to experience. That's super cool. So I was a great fan base and a good stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little bummed in the Big Ten championship game. They didn't show the wave at all or do anything on the televised portion. I was kind of sad.
Probably different when you watch them every week or get to see that.
Right. Switching gears a little bit, social media is everywhere, and we've seen an uptick in the amount of players and, recently, owners interacting with fans or tweeting their minds out there. What role do you see social media playing in the future of sports?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like how we've seen that. I've actually thought it's very cool when players are taking to social media and kind of making their own announcements or saying if there's, you know, like saying even with Stroman, right? Like he's out there tweeting about it before like anyone. So I think it's something that if you use it well and effectively, I think it's a great thing to have in sports, because it gives fans a rare connection to their favorite athletes. Because like when we were growing up, there was no way to even keep track of. You can literally talk to potentially your favorite athlete on social media. And I think that's the cool part of social media, because the way I see social media is it's there to connect people. Everything else, everything it's like kind of turned into, that's just kind of been side effects and unfortunate things is how we all see it. We know it all can have like the bad sides and the ugly sides. So I try to use it in the way I see it is when you can use it in that sense. That's when I think it's really cool. And I think that can help the game, because the more those players will connect with fans, you create that fan base, and that is how I just see it evolving. So I think if you use it in that way, and the banter, the fun banter, you know, I think when players kind of you tweet at each other, and if you look at like Instagram, it's fun to get glimpses, you know, if it's workouts into their lives, vacations, stuff like that. So I think if it's the nice side that we all like of social media, then it's nice.
Where they're building a community and
because I really think
that.
that's the purpose of it. And everything else has just kind of been the consequences of people in ways like kind of misusing it.
Yep. Now you brought up Marcus Stroman, and so there's a question out there in probably Cubs Twitter and Cubs fandom that really needs to be answered, and we think you're the right person to answer it.
Okay.
Is who's a better dancer, Marcus Stroman or
Patrick Wisdom?
Patrick Wisdom.
I'm gonna watch the videos. I remember the Patrick Wisdom. That's good. They're very similar.
Yeah.
Okay. Something extra.
Yep.
Those are really close. That's super close. I'm gonna go. Oh my God, this is a lot. I thought it would be more obvious to me. Dare I say Stroman?
Yeah,
They're both really good. Stroman's got a little more natural, like, you know, just like feeling.
natural swagger.
Yeah. I feel like it just goes with him. Not that it doesn't for Wisdom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
With the move of Marcus Stroman, what direction does that tell us Cubs fans the Cubs are headed this next season?
I think it shows you that they're heading in the direction that they've been talking about. One, picking up starting pitching. So you like to see the addition of Stroman and Miley, and then you have Hendricks at the top of the rotation. And I think, too, with the deal, you have flexibility. It's a good deal for the Cubs, and it's a good deal for Stroman because you know that he wants to prove himself every year. And with how old he is. And I also even look at, that hasn't really been talked about much, his connection and how that'll evolve with Contreras. They have really similar personalities. They're kind of fireballs and they like to show emotion. And I think that that'll be really fun to watch. And I think they could develop a really good connection. And it could even, you know, you have to anticipate that it'd probably rub off on the other guys, right? Like, you know, Hendricks, you saw him smile last year, maybe he'll laugh and it'll be groundbreaking.
Baby steps.
Right. But as for the direction, I think it's showing kind of the first steps because I don't think the Cubs are as far off as maybe some people feel. I don't think this is a 4 or 5 year thing. I think we're looking at more 2-3 years. And I think Stroman's deal kind of says that. And with the flexibility, depending on where that team is at in 2 or 3 years, you can kind of do what you see fit and what's best for the team at that point, at that mark, if they're winning or if they're not winning or where they thought they could be. Because you hope by that point they're winning more games and more competitive.
Yeah, with the offseason moves with Miley, with Stroman, even picking up Jan Gomes and getting Clint Frazier, those are like great pieces to add to this team. And you look at, if you add one more, like I've said from the very beginning, of getting a left-handed power bat, somewhere in that lineup, getting some sort of left-handed bat, and one more starting pitcher, and we're there. I was talking to one of the other guys that's part of our podcast that if we add 15 WAR to our team in the offseason, we're in the playoffs. Like that's basically that. And we've already got up to like 9, I think, so far in the additions that we've added. So we're only 1 or 2 pieces away from being right there. So I like that you're with us, that we're not that far off. I know the day before the Stroman deal, Cubs Twitter was about having like a nervous breakdown of like, world is ending. They're liars. Like, it's like
there's people standing on the edge of a building
slandering Jed like crazy.
Well, I saw so many images of that like guy who's poking a thing, and it was the Cubs symbol, and it was like, do something, do something. And then other people are like, not another minor league signing. Don't, not that. Something else.
Yeah. So it's good to see him go for it.
Yeah, and it's exciting, right? Like you said with the other strings, you start to see the pieces kind of coming together, and then the pieces that we even had last year, you want to see how those fit in for next year moving forward, and that could tell you about where some of these guys are at and how it could come together even more. Like the picture could become clearer, because I think too there's just a lot of questions around the guys on the team currently who had great years or started coming along late last season that now you just want to see, can they pick up where they left off?
Yep.
Right. I think that's the big question around Schwindel and Wisdom is like, will they pick up where they left off? Are we going to get a new player in the spring? Who knows?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think
cut Jeff off, but
certainly more exciting than a Daniel Descalso pick up. I'll tell you that. But, so with the lockout beginning between the Players Association and the owners, how long do you think this is going to last, and what do you think it's going to take to end it? Where do you see this going?
Well, I hope not long, for everyone's sake, and literally everyone involved. So given the way the seasons have gone the last 2 years, I'm at least hopeful that things will be normal to start this year. If anything's affected, maybe you're looking at spring training, but I'm hopeful we'll get in a full 162. And you kind of, you just hope that maybe the back and forth is overblown. They can work it out quicker, that they can come to a resolution and come to have some answers to further the game. Because we know that both sides want to do that. It's just about being able to agree on some things. Because you just want to make the game better. It's about making that product better, making it more competitive. And they all want to do that. And it's sometimes just how they come to that, of course, is where we're at now. So I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. Maybe that's just me because I don't, I want baseball back.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's all we can do is wait, right?
Yeah, I don't think Major League Baseball can really afford to drag it on too long, with especially not having fans in the stands for the 2020 season and having that's such a short season anyway because of the pandemic.
Right. And then last year, opening day 2.0 was on June 11th.
Yeah.
Right.
That was at full capacity. It was really back to normal.
You can't really afford to turn off too many fans. Some people will just leave and not come back.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about you don't think that the Cubs are too far away. And I don't know what you know of like the free agent market, but what moves do you see the Cubs making next? Or like if you have a player that you think you could throw out there that you would love to see them go after, you don't have to, but what moves do you think they would go for? Or what would you like to see them do next?
I think the CBA, the new CBA, will dictate a lot of that, or even even just like, is there going to be a DH, or is that going to be now?
Yep.
So that would be the first thing I'd say is now is when we've had a lot of questions as to what things will look like. We'll get those answered, and then I think you're going to see teams jump once we get clarity on those things. But how interesting would it be, say, like if Jorge Soler came back?
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So I know Correa is being thrown out there a lot, but so
it's a big name.
Yeah, that's a popular one right now. But that's kind of the first one that comes to my mind that could actually be a good fit.
Yep.
It's funny, because everyone wants to know if Brian, we know now it wouldn't be Baez, Rizzo, if they could come back, but that would be funny if out of all the names that you never even thought out there, that could be the return.
Yep.
So I just saw today someone was I don't know if it was coming from an agent or speculating that Schwarber's looking for something along the lines of like 3 years, 60 million. And somebody was like, that's not too bad of a price tag, and Cubs need a lefty bat. And DH might be coming, and he played a little bit of first base if Frank the Tank doesn't work out, like a lot of these things, like, wouldn't that be interesting?
I think the DH has to be, thinking now, like the biggest answer or the question that you want answered that could dictate a lot of rosters. So that seems to be when it'll be nice, I think, for everyone when we can just get some clarity, right? We can move forward and be past this, because we all kind of were anticipating, we saw us coming. We were hoping the lockout wouldn't happen, but here we are. And I think it'll be nice when we can just move full steam ahead and figure all that out. But I even think the free agents aside, there's so many questions on the Cubs currently. You guys mentioned you could talk about Wisdom, Schwindel, Horner and his health and how he comes back. Same thing with Madrigal, Hap, putting it together for a full season. So with all the questions, that'll give you clarity too over time and the direction this team could go and how quickly.
Yeah. Let alone on the pitching side, you got Steele, Alzolay.
Yeah.
All those young guys who we saw glimpses of last year, but will they put it together for long term? Which ones are going to be starters? Which ones are going to go to the bullpen? Are they going to do a little bit of both?
The one thing is what's nice is, at least from the top three right now, you have innings. You're going to get innings out of those guys. So that's nice, especially coming off of last year where you feel like you really put a lot on the bullpens. But you still need to strengthen the bullpen and, so we could go down a rabbit hole and talk about everything. But at least that's part of the excitement, I think, with Stroman too, is just what he brings to that rotation. Maybe not like still the power pitcher, and almost still along the lines of like just that ground ball inducing type pitchers like we talk about with Hendricks, Mills. But there's an athleticism to Stroman, the durability to him that makes him exciting. Despite his size, right?
Yeah.
Right.
About the heart. Isn't that what he said?
Yeah. And we're excited even for what we have in our minor league system. We've had DJ Hers on. We had Steele when he was with the Iowa Cubs. We've had Brennan Davis on our podcast. You're going to be probably down with Iowa Cubs maybe again this next year doing play-by-play. Hopefully we see you there, and hopefully we can. We don't have to see Brennan Davis too long at Iowa, but we think he's going to be there for a while. But we're excited to see Brennan Davis. What do you kind of see if you saw anything out of him last year? What do you kind of see out of him projecting into the Cubs for the next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way he ended the season in Iowa pretty much told you everything you wanted to know about him, and that he's good. He can produce, he can execute, he has the tools, and he puts them together, and he's fun to watch. I mean, the way you can just slide in like that, making the transition at AAA that was really impressive. I mean,
right.
sometimes you want to get used to things, the pitching, whatever it may be, and he was like, like I'm ready. I can be here. And he seems to want to prove that, right? That he wants to show people what he can do, but in a way that it's not trying to do too much, because sometimes when you say that, you can venture into that territory. But I've been really impressed just with his maturity. I think it shows that too, when you can produce like that. Good head on his shoulders, smart. So I'm excited to see him play. I think baseball should be excited to see him play, because that's what it's about, having these guys develop and come up and see what they can do.
Yeah. We're as Cubs fans super spoiled because we have great broadcasters. We have Boog, we have JD, we had Len Casper, we have Pat Hughes and radio, Ron Coomer. It's just the list of those, and then you and Taylor. Like, it's just we're just spoiled because we have such a great group of broadcasters that know the game, love the game, and that feels like you guys really get along really, really well.
Yeah,
and it really brings us as fans in to it. So we just thank you for being kind of the face and like the voice of us, that we get to kind of ride along with you throughout the season.
Oh yeah, that's the best compliment. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we love it, and we all get along and we have fun with it. That's the one bonus. It may be a long season, but it means you spend a lot of time together, and we do love spending time together, and it's fun to do the games. So thank you.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm good.
So have you ever seen the movie The Incredibles?
No, I don't think like the whole thing. No. Why should I have
you might not get this. Okay. Uh-oh. So we've joked that both Boog and Jeff kind of look alike. That there's a little bit kind of going on there.
I can see that.
Right, a little bit. Who do you think rocks the syndrome hairstyle? He's the spiked hair thing. That's yeah.
Well, Jeff has it right now. No.
Yeah. Yep. Who do you think rocks it better, Jeff or Boog? Because he does it sometimes.
Do that? Oh, he does.
Yeah. A little bit.
Old school Boog does.
Yep.
Old school Boog. I think Jeff. He's got like
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a fake dorsal appendage.
Got it all.
Hey, I figure if 50-year-old men that are half bald can walk around with a ponytail and their feet in Birkenstocks and socks, I can do this.
My mom wears Birkenstocks and socks. She's been doing it for a long time.
It's fine for ladies. It's weird on guys.
It's comfortable. She doesn't care.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We really appreciate it, and good luck on the season. We're excited, and thanks so much.
Hopefully see you in Iowa.
Yes. See you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Elise.
Bye, guys.
So that was Elise Meniker with Marquee Sports Network. We really appreciate her for jumping on with us. She's great. If you've listened or watched Marquee, her and Taylor do a great job doing sideline reporting, doing great sideline, just getting to know the players more. I feel like that they do a great job of like really allowing us to get to know the players and who they are, not just as baseball players, but as people. And so we really appreciate her jumping on. So if you follow her, I can't remember what her Twitter handle is.
It's just at Elise Meniker.
Elise Meniker. There we go.
Yep.
Well, boys, we're in a lockout with the CBA, and I want you to answer this question. Do you think we will miss games, or do you think we will start with the season on time?
Do you want optimistic or realistic answers?
So I want your honest opinion. What you think?
For me, I honestly think that Major League Baseball can't afford to upset fans. So I don't think we're going to miss games. I honestly don't. we might see a shortened spring training season, possibly. But I just don't think Major League Baseball can afford to, like, not start on time and take games away from the fans. Is basically who they're the people that are paying the bills, buying the tickets, buying the jerseys,
right,
buying stuff at the concession stand. They're the people that are greasing the wheels on this big money-making machine. I don't think they can afford to piss anybody off. So
that's where I'm a little pessimistic. I think we're gonna miss some games. This is where I'm hopeful that it's not more than a month, but I think what'll end up happening is we will creep into spring training, and part of the CBA or part of the final deal will be that the pitchers need that time to warm up. So we will miss some of the beginning of the season to offset so that they can actually have that warm up time. That's kind of my guess, especially because it sounds like they're pushing this whole February 1st kind of deadline, but it also sounds like it's going to be we're not really going to talk a whole lot until then either. Or we're going to be posturing until February 1st, and then we'll see. Right?
Yeah. I think
2 weeks after February 1st is when pitchers and catchers report.
Yeah.
Right.
That's dumb. Like, what are they doing right now? You're going to tell me everybody's Christmas shopping? My ass. They all got wives.
I think that they're going to miss some games. And I think it's going to come down to that right now they are just so stubborn. I think they're waiting for somebody like that February 1st deadline. It's going to come and it's going to be like them out to prove a point that no, we're not going to budge. We're not going to be the first one. It's kind of like when you and your wife get into argument and you don't want to be the first one to say you're sorry. And so you hold out and because you think they are the ones sorry, but eventually you come to the table and you say you're sorry and you come to an agreement. And that's where I feel like it's going to be. I feel like it's going to come February 1st. That time's going to pass. It's going to be about 2 weeks. And then they're going to start coming to the table and actually talking about getting a contract done. And by that time, it's going to push pitchers and catchers back. And so then it's going to create a shortened spring training. And so we might miss a week or two. So it might be where we get 150 game schedule. So that's where I project this to kind of go down. I really think the majority of fans won't be too hurt by 150 game schedule. It might actually be kind of nice.
Right.
It might be kind of good on the players so they don't have to wear and tear on their body, saving on some games. And so I think the casual fan is going to be all right. One, if you push it back a little bit more, I guarantee you Ian Happ and those players that suck for the first half of the season because it's freezing cold will be so happy. Hey, we get to start a little bit later. I can start off on a hot streak and have a really good season. And then when my arbitration comes up for the next year, I can make bank. So I don't know. Yeah. I really think, I know there's some real big issues that need to be discussed where the deferment of money or the distribution of money. That's the word I was looking. Distribution of money. You see it heavy on the top hand, and then that middle of the road baseball player, and even low minor league guys, you see them making a big talk about getting minor league players paid more. I think that's where it's those things are going to be what's holding it up, or the allowing free agency to come a little bit faster on your rookie contract, service time, that's going to be a thing. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of those things that I think the players and the owners haven't done a good job of keeping their mouth shut on these things. Right. AKA the Seattle Mariners GM who just basically yelled, yeah, we held the guy out. You can't do that. And players know what they know what's up. And so right. I really think that eventually they're going to come to the table and the owners are going to know that they need these players to make the money that they want and need. And the players need the owners to play the game they love. And so they're going to eventually come to an agreement. I just think we're going to miss some time. So now, right before all this lockout thing happened, we as Cub fans got a huge early Christmas present and Marcus Stroman. How pumped were you that we signed Marcus Stroman there, Jeffrey?
Oh, super pumped. I mean, it kind of helped me get more optimistic about next year when it gets going. Because before that, we picked up Wade Miley, who was a very serviceable arm that'll chew up innings. So, like when we had Elise on just a little bit ago, and she talked about having Stroman and Hendricks and Miley at the top. And, on the back end, we're either going to have Asley for sure and Steele. So, I mean, we got a pretty solid starting lineup right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was super stoked for it. I was kind of watching Cubs Twitter implode on itself, sitting here going like, what is going on? What are we going to do? Cubs make a move. Don't let it be a minor league signing only. Like what are we going to do? And everybody was like, I think it was finally Dom who pointed out, he's like, we're all going to laugh when they do sign someone and we're all going to look like idiots. And it's going to be like,
because he said he knew, he heard, he has people on the inside that he kind of got a little bit of lead in, like, hey, something's happening.
Something's happening. Yep. And so that was kind of cool. Where do you think we're going? Oh, I'm going to back up just a smidge. So the CBA, I kind of like this deadline for signing. Like there was kind of this false little deadline that created a lot of action. It was fun to watch baseball news for like good solid 48 hours, 24, but 48-ish. Like I know right now we don't really have a deadline. It would be kind of cool. Like the way that worked out. I know basketball does.
Yeah, basketball I think has some deadlines with their collective bargaining.
Right. I'm like, I'd be okay with that being a talking point and something that gets added in. That really spiced up the offseason, because especially for the last 4 years, nothing's really happened, and you've just went through the whole time going, maybe something today. No, maybe something today.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean the Stroman deal, and we talked about it last week when we had Cody on tap. They asked me what are 3 moves that the Cubs could do to kind of jumpstart this rebuild, or not rebuild, but retooling and really push them into the playoffs for this year. And I said, number 1, Marcus Stroman. Number 2, get a left-hand power bat, maybe Schwarber. And 3, get a shortstop. And I said Freddie Galvis, but now my tune is totally changing. It's like, all right, I'm full in, push the chips to the middle of the table. Let's go get Correa. Let's do it. And let's dominate. So like,
right.
But that's what that Marcus Stroman deal does. Like it gets you pumped. It sees like, okay, our staff isn't that bad. 1 through 3, we can deal if Steele takes a couple steps forward in his experience and grows and becomes the pitcher that we think he can. Like we're right there. And that's what Stroman like does. He is that spark. And if you listen to like this interview, like the dude like is well spoken. And he gets you kind of bought in. Like he has this great mindset, great, like just this aura about him that puts off like, yeah, I want to ride with him. Like I'm going to be super excited.
Well, and he even said like he was here to compete. He's not here to go through a rebuild and stuff like that. And it's like, well, they must have sold him on something to get him to sign here and to sign here for just a couple of years. So clearly he wants to compete now in this window that we have.
And what did he do right away?
Yeah, he
started recruiting.
Recruiting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like he has that personality where he can draw people in. Like people want to be with him. Like, I mean, yeah. What does this tell you is the next move for the Cubs?
Jeff.
Oh, you want me to answer this?
Yeah.
Oh, I think they're going to go after Correa pretty hard after the CBA. I think so.
I mean, what you don't sign Stroman and then not make another move.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, especially after you see the Cardinals going and getting Steven Matz, that shores up their rotation. They're going to be tough.
Yeah.
I don't think the Brewers are going to be as good.
Nope.
They have the pitching that can hang in there.
Mm-hmm.
But
can they do that 2 straight years in a row where they go on their pitching? Like,
and they even
on arms.
They even traded Jackie Bradley Jr. and who else for Renfroe? Like, I mean, Renfroe's good, but I mean, they had some guys that really played a big roles that I think that the Cubs, if they make 1 or 2 more moves, like I said from the very beginning, if they add 15 more to this team, we are right there competing for a World Series and making the playoffs. and you had Stroman. Stroman was 3.5, or what was he?
3.4.
3.4 WAR. You added
Miley,
who was 2.9. You added Clint Frazier, who was 0.3.
Jan Gomes.
Jan Gomes was 1.8. Like, you go out and get like a.
It's interesting because if you add Correa and then a lefty bat, you're at that 15 mark and above already. Like that's two.
Well, even
more
if you
moves.
add Correa and you get an arm in there,
that's true.
Like you get like a Kikuchi, or you get, Duffy, or
Chafin. I'd love to see Chafin
in the
Cubs
in
uniform.
the bullpen.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it if they brought back Andrew Chafin.
Have you seen his social media? He's building another. What's he call? It's a bird. It's like
the Firebird.
Beater bird.
Beater bird. Yeah, that's right. He doesn't call it a thunder. I was like, what does he call it? Yeah, a beater bird.
He's working. He's fixing the synchros in the transmission so he can shift them to some gears.
Yep.
But yeah, it has to tell you that they're gonna make some more moves when this collective bargaining, and that's where it's like you want this deal done early, so that they can still make moves. And because they can't talk to anybody right now. Right. It's kind of like NCAA recruiting. Like, you're going to get a violation. Their violation might not be that much. It might be just money. They're not going to have miss the NCAA tournament or miss the playoffs because you did some recruiting during the downtime of the lockout.
Right. Or worst case scenario, or here's what I imagine, Jed's texting, I don't know, another player on the team. Hey, probably Stroman. Hey, keep on Correa for us. Keep us in the loop on what's going on here.
We're willing to offer him 10 for 320. Send him this message, please. Thank you.
Yep. Oh man, that's my question, because Correa's looking for that big deal. Do you see the Cubs eating that? I would love to see Correa on the team now. Do you see them planning to have him there for 10, or will it be structured funny?
I can see them making that deal.
Okay,
I can.
Yeah, because they're not going to be they're not the only team in that boat,
right?
That's going to have a huge long-term contract that's a boatload of money either.
And because I see them looking at their farm system. And all the holes that can be filled eventually in position players are there in the minor leagues. They're there. The left-handed bat is there with Owen Casey. Your outfield, you have an outfield ready and coming. You have shortstops galore coming. Like, you have the position players. The only position you don't have is catcher, and they better go and sign Contreras to an extension.
I'd love to see it.
You have the pitching. And so, if they needed to go spend money and they needed to go pick up a pitcher, the leftover money with Hayward's contract coming off, they can put towards getting a free agent pitcher in 2 years. So I think they would. Now, would it be the best? I don't know. I'm still not a huge Correa fan. Mm-hmm. He's a good baseball player, but for him to ask for an A-Rod type contract when he can't hit home runs like A-Rod, he doesn't have the glove like A-Rod, he doesn't have the RBIs like A-Rod, but he wants the A-Rod type money. I just look back at all the deals that A-Rod got back in the day.
Right.
It's he wants that type of deal, and he's just not that type of player. And I don't like him as a person. His personality rubs me the wrong way. Is he a good player? Yes, he is a very good player. Is he a great player that should get that amount of money? I don't know. So that's my 2 cents on Correa. But I think they're going to make some more moves.
Yeah, they've already made more moves than they have in the last 3 off seasons.
Yeah. Yep. Well, man, I'm excited for Cubs baseball to start. Just hopefully we don't have to wait too long.
Right.
I did want to end.
About it, we have just over about a month of college football left, and then we got a little gap.
Then it's NCAA basketball tournament season.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's in March.
Yep.
I'm gonna love March Madness this year.
I always tell myself when February hits, and February sucks in Iowa because it's so cold and it's just a crappy month because there's nothing going on.
Your face.
Yeah,
and you're all right, I just got to make it to March. And then there's the NCAA tournament. And then April baseball starts. And then we're golden into summer. Like we just got to get to March.
Yeah. I mean, literally like from the college football final, which is like what, the 8th or 9th or something.
Yeah. Give or take.
There's like, it's the end of college basketball season, but I don't really get jazzed up for college basketball until it's like conference tournament time. And then like right after that, the March Madness starts. So then I'm kind of into it, but man, January is going to be long.
Yeah.
Real long.
Yep. All right. Well, I wanted to end tonight by us telling us what we've been into lately. Like if there is like a TV show or a book or what have we like, it's been the off season. We need to fill our time with something.
Okay.
What has been the thing that's like been filling your time or like that you've been like, oh man, this is what, if I were to recommend something to somebody, I need to recommend this.
So I got three things.
All right.
One of them is new. It's been a long time, but we had a very good friend of ours. Mitch grew up with him. He hooked me up with a Bible, and I've been reading Bible passages daily. I've been coaching 5th grade basketball. We've been to 3 tournaments. One did not go well because we only had 6 players, but the last 2, we 3-0, brought home the hardware. And I've also picked up the latest Craig Johnson novel about Sheriff Walt Longmire. That's what I've been doing with my time. How about you fellers?
Nice. I've been reading a long-time author I've followed, R.A. Salvatore, totally a fantasy nerd author. I think he has like 36 books in this series I'm reading. I'm on the final 4. I'm almost there. But outside that, also fantasy series related, I read The Wheel of Time, which is now coming out on Amazon as a series, and I had 0 expectations for it, and it's been pretty good. Been pleasantly surprised. So I've been kind of following that, reading that, enjoying.
So I'll cover our music. So I've been into, I have a very eclectic music taste, a wide range of music that I like.
It's weird, folks. When he coaches in the morning, you have no idea what you're going to get.
I could listen to like screamo. I could listen to rap. I could listen to like gangster rap. I could listen to punk. I could listen to like country. I can listen to anything.
The remix.
But I've been
the big booty remix thing. That's we go to.
But
it's not what you think.
But I've been listening to this guy named Coulter Wall. He is like the remake of Johnny Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And it like sounds like, if you watch him, like go on YouTube, look up Coulter Wall, and like he starts playing the guitar, and it's like you look at him, and then this like deep, amazing soulful voice comes out, and you're like, oh my goodness, you're just like taken back. It's so good. Like he's so good. Coulter Wall, definitely check him out. And the reason why I listen to him is because I've been watching Yellowstone, and one of his songs was on Yellowstone. But I had heard about him before, just never really listened to him. But now I've been listening to him a ton because of that. But Yellowstone has been amazing this season. It's so good. Love it. So highly recommend Yellowstone.
What do we wait an extra like 5 months before the season drop? Because it normally comes out like April, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it was a long wait to get to season 4.
Yeah, it's so
I'm
good.
on the edge of my seat.
So good. I keep telling my wife, I was like, man, I can rock a cowboy hat. Just give me some time. I can do it. And she's like, no, nobody can rock a cowboy hat. And I was like, Kevin Costner can rock a cowboy hat like nobody's business.
I think it depends on the style of the cowboy hat. Now, I think if you take the standard Stetson Ranch or
10-gallon,
that's not me. But I think if you slap a Montana Peak on my head and you kind of furl the bill up just a little bit in the front, that's all day.
Well, like we went to Tyson's and they have cowboy hats there. And I put one on and Lindsay was like, no. I was like, oh, it's probably because my attire that I have on right now. Let me go get some Carhartt stuff.
Don't worry. That's why. That's totally why.
She's like, no, we're done. We're leaving. But
I think you should go all in on this, and we should see some pictures.
What Lindsay doesn't know is that for her Christmas present, it's a cowboy hat for me. No.
You're gonna make it happen.
So yeah, but Coulter Wall, check out Yellowstone, great stuff. So that's what we've been into. But yeah, that does it for episode 63 of the Dingers podcast. Thanks for joining us this week.